Lathan Watts serves as Vice President of Public Affairs for Alliance Defending Freedom. In that role, he's overseeing the development and execution of strategic communication plans for the expansion of ADF's mission into state legal advocacy efforts, which is great news for the states, collaborating closely with other ADF teams. And prior to joining ADF, Watts spent nearly 20 years in various roles within the political, public policy, and nonprofit sectors. He also served 4 years as city councilman in Lewisville, Texas, which means he understands local issues as well. He earned his Juris Doctor from the University of Mississippi and his Bachelor of Arts in History from Harding University. Welcome, Lathan.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Hey, last time you were here, what was it? We warned about debanking, right? Which is a serious threat.
Yes.
That was episode 295. Looks like good news with President Trump on that front. I think people are going away from cancel culture. What do you think?
I think so. And, we also had the state of Tennessee, first state in the country, pass legislation against debanking. And so states being the laboratories of democracy, hopefully other states will take a look at what Tennessee did and take up similar measures. Because no one deserves to have their access to the economy taken away from them just based on what they believe.
In modern America, you become unperson, you get depersoned or whatever if that happens. And ADF was a real leader in this. We've covered it here on the show, and we had Nick Vujicic who'd gotten debanked and Nigel Farage who's gotten debanked. We've had them both on the show. But ADF, you had a role in that in Tennessee, didn't you?
We did. We worked with the legislators there. We had a client in Tennessee, a Christian ministry that helps impoverished widows and orphans in Africa who were summarily had their bank account closed. And also a local church that supported that ministry had the same thing happen to them. So we brought them to the Tennessee legislature, had them tell their story to the legislators there. And Tennessee got the bill passed and the governor signed it. So it's the first in the nation.
Telling banks, get back to business. Take care of your customers, produce profit for your shareholders. What an amazing concept, right? All right, now you've got a new article out. DEI is a corporate bust. This is published in National Review. Great article, by the way.
Thank you.
And you say corporations that bow to DEI pressure may soon find out they can't afford it. Let's start with the idea of what DEI is. What's it stand for? Where did it come from? That sort of thing.
Sure. So officially, the acronym is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and it's been kind of a hot topic politically for a while now. But it's sort of made its way into corporate America as well. And the problem with it is it's a diversity that's only skin deep. It treats everyone who looks a certain way assumes that they think the same way, or they have the same experiences, or they vote the same way. We just saw in the election that a very diverse coalition of people voted for the winner, and so it gets implemented.
Which is contrary to what we've been told is, well, if you're a woman, you have to vote for Harris. If you're black, you have to vote for Harris. In fact, President Biden actually said that. He said, if you're not voting for me, you ain't black, kind of thing. He said that to Charlemagne, the little G God, on his podcast. But which is crazy, because I think Vice President Harris, a lot of people referred to her as a DEI candidate.
Many did, and we saw how that worked out for him. So it's
because there's no diversity between her and Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and all. That was a very left-leaning convention that they had with the Beyoncés and all that supporting Taylor Swift and Oprah and all that left-leaning. But their goal or their messaging was, well, we have a certain number of Filipinos, we have a certain number of black, we have a certain number of India, and that's not what the American people are looking for.
No, and it's based on the assumption that because you're a member of that group, you all think the same way, you all vote the same way. And the results prove that to be false. And so DEI in the corporate sector, in HR departments, is kind of making the same incorrect assumption that, for us to be profitable, more productive, that, we need our workforce to look a certain way, from whether that's in the C-suite or the boardroom or the rank and file employees. And so it's based on that same faulty assumption. when the true diversity that is beneficial is diversity of viewpoint. That you want people from who look at things from a different perspective. When you have those different perspectives, in the boardroom, you get, different ideas that sometimes conflict with each other. But that creative conflict is typically where good solutions come from.
It would also be good for the newsroom. It would also be good for higher education. It would having diverse viewpoints means you're able to stop and look at things. But that is the exact opposite of progressivism as it's being forced upon us. For example, I think of COVID. I would like a diverse viewpoint on COVID. I wouldn't want everybody to say, this is the only solution. Everybody take a shot. Everybody wear a mask. Everybody stay home from work. I want scientists to be able to say, wait a minute, have you thought about this? Or maybe this should apply here, because they silenced any diversity, really.
Certainly. And that, the diversity of viewpoint is what a lot of times it does get silenced. But that's healthy in a corporation, in a culture, in a political environment. The answer to speech that you disagree with is more speech. It's
right.
Not to shut down the speech you disagree with. But as these DEI programs have been implemented in corporations, the results have not been what was promised. And like
what were the results that were promised?
A lot of these companies have sort of bowed to pressure from certain activist groups like the Human Rights Campaign, who survey companies on a lot of these issues, and the only way to get a good score is if you do things exactly the way they want you to, with the promise of this is what's good for your company. The results haven't borne that out. And so at ADF, we have the Viewpoint Diversity Index, where we score companies on how they treat differing views within their companies, which does lead to, as I said, like healthy conflict, creative solutions. And so it's sort of our response to these other surveys. And we're not trying to make companies conservative. We're trying to make companies respect the diversity amongst of viewpoints amongst their employees, their customers, their shareholders, their vendors, all parts of business.
Yeah, well, I think Coca-Cola is an example. Give me a Coke and a smile. Give me the best quality Coke product that you can. Pay your people well. Take care of your shareholders. But what they've been doing is having some of this DEI stuff where they say, well, if you're white, then you need to apologize and all of that, which doesn't add value to anyone. I don't want Christian Coke, but I certainly don't. I want a Coke and a smile. All right, we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk further. In uncertain times, finding stability in the economy can feel challenging. But what if you could navigate economic volatility while honoring your biblical values? At Timothy Plan, they believe this balance is possible. Timothy Plan filters its volatility-weighted ETFs and family of mutual funds through a biblical pro-life and pro-family lens, so you can see competitive returns and moral responsibility, helping you to weather the economic storms. With Timothy Plan, align your investments with your values while adapting to our ever-changing culture. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has been recognized leader in biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, your bridge between faith, finances, and the future. Visit timothyplan.com or call 1-800-TIM-PLAN or 1-800-846-7526. Investing includes risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Here's a $10 bill. It's got the picture of Alexander Hamilton on the front of it. It's kind of sad. When I was 10 years old, everything that I could buy for $1 now costs about $10. That's the cost of inflation. It's just paper. It's not backed by anything. You can't exchange it for gold and silver. You used to, but you can't do that anymore. And that's unfortunate. Pirates wouldn't accept this. Pirates, they wanted gold and silver. Patriots, the founders of this nation, also wanted gold and silver coin. In fact, they put a provision in the Constitution, 17 words, that said states could only make gold and silver coins tender within the states. That's why I wrote this new book, Pirate Money, Discovering the Founders' Hidden Plan for Economic Justice and Defeating the Great Reset. It will explain exactly the history of money and exactly why gold and silver coins can be made modern with new technology and a useful monetary system. PirateMoneyBook.com. Lathan, before the break, we were talking about Coca-Cola and a Coke and a smile. But this applies to other drinks, right? Budweiser, didn't they have a little problem with DEI?
They did. I think most Americans, particularly in this economy, with inflation still a factor, most Americans are looking for the best product at the best value, at the best price. They don't care about the skin color or the sexuality of who made it or who sold it to them. And that's what we're trying to get business back to. Now, on the other hand, if you force that upon them, the way Budweiser did, they will react. And they reacted, the way consumers do, by not buying the product. And Anheuser-Busch, I think it was a couple of billion in shareholder value that they lost.
Just wiped out because they were forced. It's interesting. I saw a poll, and then I saw specific reactions from people being polled about the election, Trump versus Harris. And they said, with Trump, yeah, he may be crazy. We may get crazy. But with Harris, we get preachy. And I'll tell you what, I would rather have crazy that's not trying to tell me how to live and what to do than preachy that's trying to control every aspect of my life. And so I'm voting, even anti-Trump people traditionally said, I'm voting Trump over preachy.
Yeah, and I think there's an important lesson there for the private sector as well. We want your company to be effective. We want you to make a good product, sell it at a good price. I don't want to have to consider all of these other issues when I'm walking down the aisle at the grocery store or when I'm going to buy a car or whatever it may be. And so whatever's going to make you the most effective should be the policy. And DEI policies just have not borne that out. Whereas hiring the best people, putting them in the best positions to be successful does. Merit-based hiring and promotion.
Right, and allowing for diverse viewpoints. If you're black, you don't have to vote for this way. If you're a woman, you don't have to vote this way. I heard this recently at a conference. There are a lot of women where pro-choice is a big issue for them, but there's a lot of women where pro-life is a big issue for them. It's not necessarily a gender split on that issue. We had recently in the Economic War Room, we had Donna Jackson from Project 21. And you think, well, DEI, it's not good for consumers. It doesn't benefit consumers. It doesn't make the product any better. It's not good for investors because it doesn't add anything to the bottom line in profits. In fact, it costs money. You have these big DEI departments and people suing. But at least maybe it helps the minority who needs to get a job. And she's like, absolutely not. She said, I was top of my class. I was the best accountant there. In the private sector, I did better work than anybody else. And yet, whenever I would walk in and present my findings, I knew they were thinking, well, that's a DEI hire. It hurt her. It did not help her. And that's a black woman, a brilliant lady.
Yeah, and you see that. Like when the employees know that policy exists and it's time for, performance evaluations, promotions, that sort of thing, bonuses or whatever, there can be an inclination amongst somebody who didn't get the promotion to automatically assume the person who didn't earn it, and that's another. So
it creates more racial strife, not less. Exactly. It doesn't help the minority; it hurts them. Or even if you do promote people based on DEI metrics where they're not earned, it causes people to not try very hard.
Right, and that's one of the sort of joking different definitions of DEI is didn't earn it. Right, people say that. I say it's diminished earnings. Intentionally.
Yeah.
You're making bad policy, knowing what the results are going to be.
Well, a lot of this has come up just recently. I think it's June 2023, there was a Supreme Court ruling against Harvard. Can you explain what they ruled and how that's hitting corporations?
Well, that, if I'm thinking of the same case, deals with admissions policies in universities. And if I recall correctly, the folks that brought that suit were Asian Americans who had been on the receiving end of lower admissions.
Discrimination. They were discriminated against. Despite their high grades, despite their high scores.
All the credentials, but people who did not have the same credentials as them but checked a different box in the diversity score were getting admitted, and they weren't. And the Supreme Court basically said, this is real serious legal analysis here, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Discrimination is discrimination, and that's wrong, and we don't do that.
So if I'm on a corporate board and I look at that and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, we're doing this, and the court just came down on universities, there's potential lawsuits there, aren't there?
There could be. In the labor and employment area of the law, if you can show that, I was passed over for this, somebody who was less qualified than me because of this policy got this job or got this promotion or whatever, there's potential.
So to paraphrase Martin Luther King Jr., judging your employees on the content of their work rather than on the color of their skin.
Absolutely.
All right, so you mentioned in your article a conservative cult hero. He's just kind of emerged from nowhere, Robbie Starbuck, who has been, it seems, very effective at pointing out the DEI and getting corporate change.
He has. He's been very effective, and all he's really doing is making the information available to the public. And then when shareholders see this and start to take action, or even the threat of shareholder action, a lot of companies have reversed these policies, taken them out, and he's been very effective.
So I've got Lowe's, I've got Ford, but here's one that shocked me: Tractor Supply, which is in rural America that doesn't want the DEI. I shop at Tractor Supply. Sure. You go in there, and then all of a sudden he exposed them, and what did they do?
They basically did a 180. I mean, reverse course, got rid of the policies, and it's because, as I said, like sunlight's the best disinfectant. People found out, and the appropriate action was taken.
Well, ADF's apparently getting in this because you wrote this great article. So it's a combination of court rulings, which ADF does, it works towards, and public relations and legislation, and ADF's active in all those areas. How are you working on DEI?
So we recently just sent a letter to the Fortune 1000 companies from ADF explaining how DEI is a bust, but offering to help, which with our Viewpoint diversity score, where we score companies on how they treat a diversity of opinion or viewpoint within their company, within their customers, within their clientele, that we can actually help these companies value diversity that is more than skin deep, and we can offer them help as to policies that they can implement to do things in the right way. I love that.
That is so refreshing. It's the opposite of, we hope you screw up so we can sue you and get a lot of money.
Sure.
It is rather, we want to help you. This is a serious issue. We want to help you, and it makes America better. I'd love to get a copy of that letter. We're going to need to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the other activities ADF is doing to make America great again.
Somewhere a perversion has taken place. Our natural, unalienable rights are now considered to be a dispensation of government, and freedom has never been so fragile, so close to slipping from our grasp as it is at this moment.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It has to be fought for and defended by each generation.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
In this most critical time in our nation's history, now more than ever, Americans need to align with companies that support our constitutional rights and God-given freedoms. Patriot Mobile supports your values and provides exceptional 100% US-based customer service. Join the movement today. Go to patriotmobile.com or call 972-PATRIOT.
Lathan, you're doing great work. I love that ADF is offering to help corporations rather than, hey, we hope you mess up so we can sue you for the headlines, which is fabulous. But there are other good people working. You sent a letter to the Fortune 1000, but didn't SFOF do that also?
They did, and their letter, in addition to a letter from investment fund managers that manage billions in investments, was in response to a letter from 49 members of Congress.
Well, what do the members of Congress?
The members of Congress were encouraging the Fortune 1000 to keep all the DEI policies.
So these would be more of the liberal progressive wing of Congress?
It was 49 Democrats in Congress who signed the letter. So the state financial officers and these investment fund managers answered that letter to the Fortune 1000.
So these are the customers. State financial officers would be the big pension plans of the states, the treasurers, that sort of thing, and then private sector investors.
Exactly, whose clients want these companies to be successful, want them to be, the policy is to increase profitability, which benefits them. They actually have skin in the game, whereas the members of Congress theoretically don't. It's just, hey, this is a good idea. It doesn't work, but it's a great idea. You should keep doing it. So measure the good intentions, not the actual results.
Right.
So yes, the state financial officers and investment fund managers sent a letter, and then we've now sent a letter of our own, encouraging them to participate in our Viewpoint Diversity Index, where they can learn about viewpoint diversity and how we can help there.
Right, and that the bottom line is you want results. I read in your article about the University of Michigan, and they attempted DEI in their admissions policies, I guess?
In a lot of different
hiring practices?
Yeah, in a lot of different areas over the last 10 years. And the results, the recent survey was that the students and the faculty were less satisfied now than they were before.
Even the minorities?
Yeah. And we've seen the same thing with surveys done of employees of companies that have DEI policies. They don't see an increase in productivity. There's not an increase in profitability. They don't feel more motivated, in their job, knowing that these policies exist or that their company is taking a stand on controversial social issues. And
you certainly have less unity because it's us versus them. I'm in this group and I want my fair share, and you're in that group and you're getting too much or whatever.
Right. It's not good, for employee relations, labor and management relations, all the different relationships that are involved.
Every successful company I've been involved with has had a unity of purpose where people are working together. They don't worry about skin color or if it's male or female. There should not be boys' clubs. Those are bad. There should not be girls' clubs. And there should not be, they're all bad. It ought to be a team of people working together.
Absolutely. And coming at issues from different perspectives. That's where you get you can get creative conflict, but as long as it's healthy conflict, differing viewpoints and everybody is heard and a creative solution can be found.
Right. Yeah, unity of people, you don't have to have unity of thought. That unity of thought predetermined is destructive because you won't innovate, right? It's the railroads who say this is the only way people will ever travel, and they missed out on the great opportunities coming up. So you do need some of that creative destruction, which requires differing thought. All right, so ADF is a tremendous organization. You're going to have influence with the Trump administration. I know that. I know there'll be people that are your friends that are going into the administration. Tell me, what's the year ahead look like?
Well, our focus, is always on protecting free speech, religious liberty, the sanctity of life, marriage, and the family. And we do that, in litigation. We do that in public policy, in the legislative branches, both at the federal and the state level, and in the court of public opinion. Which is why we, write pieces and do interviews. If we lose the court of public opinion, we'll eventually start losing in court on these issues. So the issues that we're engaged in have not changed, but there is, I think, cautious optimism, and hope going forward that, especially in like your executive branch agencies in the federal regulatory state, I think a big message coming out of this election was to pare back some of that.
Yeah, I picture Elon Musk with a chainsaw.
Exactly. So, and a lot of the things that we end up litigating are regulatory issues. And so, like I said, the proof is always in the pudding, but we're cautiously optimistic that at least theoretically, the people heading up these agencies, assuming that they're confirmed and actually doing the job, maybe looking at things from a viewpoint that's a little closer to ours than previous administrations have been.
There's potential that you will have the executive branch supporting the ideals that you've outlined, free speech and marriage and things like that. I'm concerned that the 100 days between, or however many it is, between the election and the inauguration, that there is a very deep state burrowing even deeper and doing everything they can to be entrenched and supplant. They did this to Trump last time. I'm concerned they're going to do it again. Do you think he's more aware this time? Are we better prepared?
I think, experience is the greatest teacher, and I don't think he has forgotten, or anybody that worked for him, frankly. They remember, what the first 4 years was like. And so hopefully he's bringing that experience into the job this time. And it would be like that for any president.
Yeah.
Going into a second term, you're going to have the experience of the first term. I mean, his is interrupted by a 4-year term, but you're going to have more experience and know, hopefully learn the lessons from your previous term, what you did right, what you did wrong, what you can do better.
It's interesting because not often do we have a gap like we do, a 4-year gap. So the Obama-Biden team had a 4-year gap, and then they were raring to go. This is what we want to accomplish when we get back in. And they made a lot of accomplishments early on, the Inflation Reduction Act and so forth. I didn't like a lot of that, but I had hope for the Biden team coming in. And now Trump's had 4 years to reflect, and I think he's going to go in with a lot of strength. All right, let's wrap up with talking about Alliance Defending Freedom. How can people support that, and how can they follow your work?
Thank you very much. So our website is adflegal.org. And if you go to that website, you can learn a lot about all of the cases that we have going on. We have currently, I think, 6 Supreme Court cert petitions pending. So potentially 6 cases in front of the Supreme Court coming up. You can learn about all of those. That's also if you want to support our work. You can do that through the website, and it's important to know that, especially like a Supreme Court case that takes 5, 6, 7 years, none of our clients ever get billed for our work, and that's because people support us.
Well, thank you so much, Lathan. All right, we're going to summarize all of this in a free economic battle plan. You can get a copy of it at economicwarroom.com. Remember, what we see as a marketplace, our enemies view as a battle space. This is Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.